Hello and welcome to part 3 of our Improve Your Laptop's Performance tutorial series, and this is for advanced users. In this tutorial we're going to cover how to update your BIOS, or at least that you should update your BIOS, overclocking and undervolting. So that's the kind of 3 things we're gonna tackle. First we're gonna update our BIOS. And for that you need to know your laptop model. Now I expect you to already know that, so we're going to skip that step. So when you know your laptop model, you want to go into your browser, you want to search up your laptop model, in my case the G501BW, and then BIOS update. And that should bring you to the correct page in the first hit. If not, then search around a bit more. In my case, you can see that this BIOS was updated in December, just before Christmas actually. That's fantastic, nice Christmas gift. I have already updated this BIOS, but what you would do is that you would download it from wherever, you can see it here. And for some laptops, you just have an executable file that you double click and it takes care of things for you. In my case, and in some other laptops case, you have to transfer the file to USB drive and then use Easy Flash from within the BIOS of the laptop. Now there should be specific tutorials on your specific laptop online, and I can't possibly cover every laptop in this video. So why update the BIOS is a question I get often. Well, the BIOS is the basic input-output system. It was decide how your hardware communicates on a basic level. So updating it can often, or at least sometimes, yield performance improvements just because the components are communicating better. And in some laptops like mine, BIOS updates also gives longer battery time because it turns off components more intelligently, I guess. Alright, now over to the more interesting part of this tutorial, which is overclocking and undervolting. Now, overclocking is when you force a component in your computer to run at a higher speed. Now that will increase temperature, but we're going to compensate with that with undervolting. Now I'm going to go over it as we go along. Now, if you only have an Intel CPU and Intel iGPU, and that will say integrated graphics, you have it really simple because there's only one program you need, and that's the Intel Extreme Tuner. You download it from here, and you go through the setup, you restart your machine, and it should be ready to go. I have already downloaded it. So let me just close the program I otherwise use. Actually, I have to force it to quit because this it's the program that I usually use for my undervolting, but it's a bit more advanced than the Extreme Tuner. So we're just going to use this for now. Alright, so it opens up and it should give you a warning, and we're gonna fuck off with that. Alright, so we're in here. You want to go into Advanced Tuning and All Controls. And then you agree. And oh, it actually can see exactly what I'm working with here. That's great. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is you see this core voltage offset. It should stand at 0 when you get into the program. What you're going to want to do is you want to decrease it. Let's just change this to 0. Is that you want to decrease this by about, let's say 30 at a time, or 0.30, 0.030 actually. And then you hit apply. And then you go to stress test and CPU stress test. Now I actually want to show you guys exactly what undervolting does, because we're going to do that first and then we're going to go with overclocking later. So now it's at 0 offset. Let's just put this on 0 as well, so that everything's just just dandy. All right, now let's go to stress test. We want to stress test the CPU, and let's start testing. Now pay attention to the temperature here. Now you can see that it is slowly rising here. It's getting to 67 degrees, 70 degrees, 69 degrees. So it's rising slowly but surely. And when it hits, I think 80 for this specific processor, you will see the core frequency start to decrease because it thermal throttles, which is the processor's way of keeping itself safe from, you know, heat death. And we should start seeing it hitting that point. Let's just see if it does. It's just gonna take too much time. Just remember, within very short time, it hit about 75 degrees. All right, now we're gonna go to the maximum undervolt that I know my computer can handle. Normally, you would decrease in the increment of 30 millivolts and stress test to see if it crashes. If it doesn't, decrease further, and then when it crashes, because you want to push it as far as it can get, you know, then increase the millivolts by about, say, 20 or 30, somewhere around there. I know the maximum mine can take is minus 141. Can I get that? No, I have to use the other program. Okay, but 140. So let's just hit apply on that. Now let's stress test again and see how high it gets and how fast it gets there. So we can actually see the curve of the last stress test here, and we can see the curve of the next one here. So let's just see how it stacks up. Well, it seems pretty reduced. So in my specific case, reducing the millivolts by 140, it decreases the temperature by about 10 degrees, which is nice. And it doesn't reduce the speed either, because you just make the processor more efficient, which is a good thing. And there are a lot of good tutorials on undervolting online, so I recommend you go online and research further. I'm just here to show you that the tools exists. Now for overclocking, we are going to want to overclock our GPU. Now that also requires a program for stress testing. In my case, I like to use the Valley benchmark. Now let me just make my computer pretend that I only have a iGPU. So let's disable my discrete GPU for a moment here. Yep. All right, that's great stuff. Am I still recording? Yeah, I'm still recording. Great stuff. Okay, so let's turn off full screen and let's just make this a manageable. And let's put it on medium so that it doesn't choke. So right now we are gonna want to change the processor graphics ratio limit, which sounds really advanced, but it's really just overclocking your iGPU. And to test stability and also gaming performance, we are going to want to use this program, the Unison Valley, just to, test the stability and heat output of the thing. So you can see here, I'm getting around just below 40. Just below 40, and no stability problems, of course. We can see the temperatures are manageable. The fans haven't really kicked in, so this is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. All right, so let's quit it. We don't need it anymore. Now let's increase this. Now I recommend you increase it by 0.5 every time, like it says here, but we're just gonna go straight to 11.5, just for fun. Now I actually don't know how far I can push my integrated graphics, because I usually don't use integrated graphics because I have a discrete GPU. So this is going to be a journey for both of us. So let's run it again and see if we get some increased FPSs. So yeah, now we're pushing over 40 and it seems we're stable. So yeah, I'm just gonna stop there because I could use all day, you know, improving performance, but you know, I gotta finish this video. Alright, so if you have a discrete GPU, you will either have an NVIDIA GPU or an AMD GPU. Now if you have an AMD GPU, your life is easy because AMD actually have an overclocking tool within their software. So all you want to do is right click on your desktop, go into Radeon settings, and then I think in the top left corner you press games and then global Wattman, and that will be your process. Now you can follow my steps, just know that your program will look different. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, well, you're in luck because so do I. So you're gonna wanna download NVIDIA Inspector and you want to run it, of course, and you should be presented with a program that looks like this, and then you want to press show overclocking. Now I have already overclocked this GPU as far as it gets. Normally you would want to start with the base clock offsets. Actually, let's apply defaults here for a second, and we can go through it. Normally you would start with base clock and increase it by, let's say, 20 at a time, and then apply clocks and voltage and then run a stress test. For now I know how far I can push it, so there's no need for me to do that, but if you are doing this for the first time, that would be your method of progress. And after you found your stability for the base clock, you want to find stability for your memory clock. Now in my specific case, no matter which settings I put my NVIDIA GPU on, it always thermal throttles, but it never goes above 80 or 81, which is high, but it's safe. So I have like technically I don't have a lot of leeway when it comes to temperature, but I kind of do. It's something you yourself has to consider. In my case, it's definitely worth it. So let's just test this in a bit higher resolution this time, and let's just see what kind of frame rates I'm getting at stock. So we should see frame rates here. Alright, so we get around, well, just above 60 in the first one. Alright, so that's cool, just above 60. Now let's push it. Now again, I know exactly how much my computer can take, so you know, you should test this yourself. So let's run it again. And pay close attention to the temperature and the current clock. So you can see that now we're pushing over 70. So yeah, that's basically overclocking for you. And since we reduced the temperatures with the undervolting we did earlier, overclocking isn't really that big of a deal. At least when it comes to the danger of killing your components, because you have already reduced the temperatures of your system. And that's basically it for this one. Yeah, so have a good one, and let me stop recording.